Hi, everyone. My name is Dilnar Mahmut, and I'm a third-year PhD candidate in Dr. Guwan Evans' lab here at the Center for Regenerative Medicine. Today, I'll be presenting about the transplantation of human iPSC-derived endothelial cells in acute liver injury mouse models as a cell therapy for improving liver regeneration. Firstly, the liver is the only organ in our body that can completely regenerate itself after an injury. And this regenerative process is highly orchestrated, and I want to specifically focus about the role of endothelial cells and their contribution. When we think about liver regeneration, we're thinking about the proliferation of hepatocytes, the functional cell of the liver, to make up for the lost tissue. And there's a critical interplay between hepatocytes and the resident endothelial cells of the liver, also known as liver sinusoidal endothelial cells, LSECs. Many groups have shown that during injury, hepatocytes secrete VEGF-A, vascular endothelial growth factor A, which in turn activates LSECs through the KDR receptor, also known as VEGF receptor 2. And due to this KDR receptor activation, LSECs are known to release hepatocyte growth factor and Wnt as a mechanism to stimulate hepatocyte proliferation. And this has been shown over a multitude of years from various groups. Liver disease affects hundreds of millions of patients worldwide, and liver transplantation is currently the only treatment for end-stage liver disease or severe acute liver injury. More than 6,000 liver transplants are performed each year in the US, yet over 16,000 Americans are on the waiting list for a liver transplant. So to overcome the scarcity of donor organs, liver cells generated from human-induced pluripotent stem cells could provide an unlimited supply for patient-specific cell replacement therapy without the need for immunosuppression. And although all cells of the liver suffer from liver injury, the most desired cell type is to transplant the hepatocyte. But there's a limitation in that there's a poor maturation of human iPSC-derived hepatocytes, and this prevents their clinical benefit, especially in the case of acute liver disease, which you require rapid replenishment of functional hepatocytes. So to overcome this limitation, my project proposes an alternative strategy, which is to transplant endothelial cells that promote proliferation of the remaining functional hepatocytes. And by leveraging the pathways involved, as I mentioned earlier, we can use VEGF-A mRNA encapsulated in lipid nanoparticles to directly target the liver and promote the engraftment of cells to help repopulate the injured vasculature and in turn alleviate liver diseases. And VEGF-A is crucial for endothelial cell development because it acts as a primary signaling molecule that stimulates the proliferation, migration, and survival of endothelial cells. And mRNA LNPs are a great tool which are highly specific to the liver, can robustly and transiently express protein, and is a safe tool validated in the use for COVID-19 vaccines. So to do so, I need to start with making these IECs. I start off with a directed differentiation protocol that induces human-induced pluripotent stem cells into a primitive streak, followed by lateral plate mesoderm. And with 3 days of high VEGF-A stimulation, along with notch inhibition using DAPT, we can generate primitive endothelial cells and positively select them through their expression of pan-endothelial markers CD31, also known as PCAM1, and CD144, also known as VE cadherin, using magnetic bead sorting. After selection, we can expand them and maintain them in an endothelial growth media. These cells are not only pure for pan-endothelial markers CD31 and 144, but they also are venous in phenotype as marked by their CD73 expression. They display immune marker expression through CD32, and they also express LIVE1, which is a well-known marker in LSECs. But when we try to define these cells further, when we look at qPCR data, we can see that factors associated with maturity in LSECs, such as CMAF, a transcription factor, factor 8, which is a functional output, and STAB2, a scavenging marker associated with mature LSECs, we see that our cells are not quite mature, but still very pure when we're looking at pan-endothelial markers. This is not a limitation in our study, as cells more primitive in nature have a higher engraftment potential, and my goal is to transplant cells in injured livers. The first pilot transplantation model was transplanted into immuno-incompetent NSG mice with acetaminophen injury. Acetaminophen overdose is a leading cause of liver transplantation in the US, and in mice, this model is well established to induce severe liver parenchyma necrosis around the central vein area and resolves within a week following sublethal doses. So briefly, 24 hours after acetaminophen, I transplanted 1 million IECs via intrasplenic injection and administered 1 microgram of VEGF-A, mRNA-LNP, and 1 microgram of eGFP mRNA-LNP as a control. I can actually track the fate of the cells over time due to the starting iPSCs having an endogenous luciferase reporter. Through IVUS imaging, we can read the bioluminescence data, and we can initially see that there is no significance between the treatment group and the control group. But when I look more closely in the histology of the liver sections, by staining for human CD31, I can identify the cells that are engrafted. I can identify that they are in the sinusoidal space by how they're marked near the sinusoidal network that expresses mouse KDR. And I can also visualize where they are located in the liver, whether they're periportal through mouse CK7 staining, or whether they're pericentral by mouse GS staining. And so two major findings of the study was that although the IVUS data did not show significance, in the histology, I found that there were far more larger clusters of transplanted cells in my treatment group, in the VEGF-A treated group, compared to the control, and that the majority of these cells are periportal versus pericentral, although there are some rare instances where they are by the pericentral area. Since intrasplenic injection means all the blood in the spleen directly drains into the liver via the portal vein, we can expect to see these cells by this area. But we can also postulate that the cells that are by the central vein could be due to migration to the injured areas or immediate integration to those areas after transplantation and injury. Moving forward with the results I collected from the pilot transplantation, we decided to use another acute injury, but this time using monocrotaline. And monocrotaline is a pyrrolizidine alkaloid that mimics sinusoidal obstructive syndrome seen in humans, and it's very specific to the LSEC network. Briefly, 24 hours after monocrotaline, I intrasplenically injected 1 million IECs, but this time used a higher dose of VEGF-A, 5 microgram per mice, and I repeated this dose 1 time a week for about 3 weeks. 48 hours after each VEGF-A treatment, I imaged the mice to track the fate of the cells. We can immediately see that there is a dramatic difference of luciferase bioluminescence signal in the VEGF-A treated group compared to the eGFP. And similarly to the pilot transplantation, by using the same staining strategies, we can see that there are far more clusters of cells in the VEGF-A treated group compared to the null treated group. And again, same theme here. Majority of these cells are by the portal vein compared to rare instances where I find them by the central vein. An observation I made with the study along with the similarities I found from my pilot transplantation is that due to the higher dose of VEGF-A, I also noticed dilation of the sinusoids. Now, what this means for the blood flow and the function of those resident cells, I'm still in the process of investigating. Lastly, I want to draw your attention to some observations I made in the spleen, because I'm sure you're wondering, do these cells get stuck in the spleen? And yes, they do. So the first column I'm showing you here, images of the engrafted IECs in the spleen of the APHAP injured group. I find that the cells that are stuck in the spleen form these beautiful networks. And in fact, in my second transplantation model, where I use a higher dose of VEGF-A, I see less of these cells stuck in the spleen, indicating migration. But when we look at the endogenous endothelial cells using mouse KDR staining in the spleens, with the higher dose of VEGF-A, we can see this dramatic activation of mouse KDR in the mice in the monocrotaline injury compared to the APHAP. Now, again, what this means for the overall survival and health of the mice, I'm not sure, and I'm still in the process of investigating. So with that, I hope I could convince you that directed differentiation of human iPSCs into IECs yield a pure yet immature population of cells. Transplanted IECs engraft primarily in the periportal zone after APAP and monocrotaline injury, and have rare instances where they engraft pericentrally. Higher doses of VEGF-A induce a 28.8-fold increase in IEC luciferase expression compared to non-treated control mice, indicating the role of VEGF-A in improving proliferation and sustained survival of IECs. engrafted IECs in the spleen tend to form a self-organized network, and endogenous endothelial cells of the spleen are activated by higher doses of VEGF-A compared to low dose. So my future directions moving forward is to assess the functionality of these engrafted IECs via dextrin's uptake and staining. I want to assess the therapeutic benefit of IEC cell transplantation in acute and chronic liver injury models. I want to understand the role of VEGF-A mRNA-LNP, not only on the engrafted IECs, but also on the host endothelial cells. And I would like to investigate the crosstalk between engrafted IECs and host liver cells in injury mouse models using single nuclei RNA sequencing. So I would like to thank you for your attention today.